students, welcome to iTTV. How are you today? I hope you are in good health. Today we're going to learn analyzing the harmful effects of microorganisms. Some microorganisms are harmful to us because they cause diseases. These microorganisms are called pathogens. Pathogens include bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. Now let's look at the diseases that is caused starting from bacteria. Here we can see that pathogens are like bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. And on top of that, bacteria causes diseases like tuberculosis, cholera, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Here we can see different types of diseases caused by bacteria. Let's start learning from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis. Bacteria causes tuberculosis. TB is a contagious disease. It spreads through the air and commonly affects the lungs. The bacteria attack and destroy the lung tissues, lymph nodes, bones, and joints of the patient. So we have seen how TB spreads, that is through air, and how it is brought by bacteria. But let's look at the symptoms of TB, how to identify whether that person has TB or not. Symptoms of TB. The main symptom of TB is continuous coughing. The cough eventually produces blood stains. Shortness of breath because it destroys lung tissue. Other symptoms include tiredness, loss of appetite, and sweating at night. So normally what we know is, as soon as a person coughs and it actually has blood stain on the cloth itself, automatically we presume that he has TB. Let's move on to cholera. Cholera is a disease caused by bacteria which contaminate drinking water and food. The bacteria enters the body through contamination food and drink. They then multiply in the intestine and produce toxins. The toxins cause severe diarrhea and vomiting. So one way of these bacteria to enter our body is through the drinking water or contaminated food. So as soon they have entered our body, they start to multiply. Now the nice and better place for them to multiply is the large intestine. Now what are the symptoms of this cholera? Let's see. Symptoms of cholera: diarrhea and vomiting resulting excessive loss of water from the body. Hence, a person with cholera must immediately replace lost water by drinking rehydration solutions made from salt and sugar. So normally, if diarrhea occurs, we have to treat it fast because there is a loss of water and fluid from the body. So in order to replace it, we have to consume a lot of water or see a doctor. Now let's look at gonorrhea. Gonorrhea are examples of diseases that are spread through sexual contact. The coccus bacteria causes gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is contagious but curable. The bacteria grow and multiply in the reproductive system, including the cervix, uterus, and fallopian tubes in the women. On top of that, urethra in men. So here we understand gonorrhea is transmitted through sexual contact and how it affects men and women. Now let's look at the symptoms of gonorrhea. Symptoms of gonorrhea. In men, a painful urination, thick discharge from the penis. In women, painful urination, increased vaginal discharge and vaginal bleeding between periods. An infected woman can also pass the disease to her baby during child delivery. So here we have seen how bacteria creates a disease like gonorrhea. Now let's look at the next one, that is on syphilis. Bacteria causes syphilis. Syphilis is a contagious disease that is usually spread through sexual contact. First, ulcer and red spots appear around vagina or penis. The bacteria is the sore or rash of an infected person can enter another person during physical contact. Syphilis can lead to other health problems or death if left untreated. Now here we can see how syphilis is also spread through sexual contact, similar to gonorrhea. So these are the examples, diseases brought by bacteria. Now let's move on to fungi. What are the diseases caused by fungi? Here we can see the diseases caused by fungi are tinea, ringworm, and Pityriasis versicolor. Let's learn about tinea. Tinea is caused by fungi. The fungi can grow on the skin, scalp, and nails. When the fungi grow, they spread out in a circle. The skin around the circle is red, scaly, and itchy. It is often called ringworm and contagious. So this is how tinea is. It spreads out in circle and it has red spots and rashes. Now what are the ways it is actually spread out? Let's see. It spreads from person to person through direct skin contact. Since fungi live on damp surface, a person can sometimes get tinea by sharing towels and using swimming pools. Now let's look for the next one. Pityriasis versicolor. Pityriasis versicolor is a common skin infection caused by the fungi. Sweating and humid weather conditions contributes to the growth of the fungi. Infection is seen as discoloration, patches on the skin. Discoloration and patches on the skin is one of the symptoms that we can see on this versicolor. Now, let's look at the next one, that is on protozoa, and what are the diseases that is caused by protozoa. Here, we can see protozoa causes diseases like malaria. Malaria. The saliva of the female Anopheles mosquito contains the Plasmodium protozoa. So the female Anopheles mosquito is the one that carries this malaria. Now, what causes malaria again is the Plasmodium protozoa. Now, this Plasmodium protozoa is in the mosquito. Now, how does it transmit it to our body? Let's see. How is it transmitted? When it bites a person, the protozoa enter the body. So this is how it goes. It bites the person and the saliva which contains this Plasmodium protozoa enters the body. Now where does it go after that? Then the protozoa multiplies in the liver. Then they enter the bloodstream and destroy red blood cells. Malaria is curable, but if it is left prolonged for these diseases, what happens is it will cause death. So we have to cure it as soon as possible. Now let's look at the next pathogen, that is viruses. Viruses cause diseases like influenza, dengue fever, hepatitis, and AIDS. Let's start from influenza. Influenza or flu is a contagious infection of the respiratory system. It is caused by influenza virus. So influenza or flu, something common among us, but how is it transmitted and how are the symptoms of this influenza? Let's see. It spreads through the air when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Common symptoms of flu include a sore throat, runny nose, fever, headaches, tightness, and dry coughs. So influenza is airborne, and on top of that we have seen the symptoms of this influenza. This is something common and I guess you know all those symptoms. Let's look at the next one, that is on dengue. Dengue fever is a non-contagious disease caused by viruses. The female Aedes mosquitoes carry the viruses. Here we can see that dengue is caused by a mosquito. It's an Aedes mosquito. Now it's slightly different from malaria. Now malaria, even though it's caused by mosquito, but it is due to Plasmodium protozoa. In here we're going to see dengue, which is caused by Aedes mosquito. Now let's see how it gets into our bloodstream. When the mosquito bites a person, it transmits the virus into the body. So this is how it actually enters our body. The virus actually is in the saliva of this Aedes mosquito, and as it bites us, it enters our bloodstream. So let's look at the symptoms of dengue. There are no medicines to cure dengue. Treatment usually includes controlling the symptoms such as reducing the fever and drinking a lot of water. There is usually bleeding from the nose, mouth and gums. This is because the blood vessels weakens. So here we have seen some of the symptoms and the reason why. Now let's look at the next one, that is on hepatitis. Hepatitis is a contagious disease caused by viruses that infect the liver. Infection causes inflammation of the liver. So hepatitis is because of a virus whereby it goes and attacks the liver. Now let's look at the symptoms of hepatitis. The common symptoms of hepatitis include jaundice, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting and headache. Sometimes hepatitis can lead to liver failure. Now hepatitis is something common, but on top of that we have learned there's such thing as hepatitis A, hepatitis B and hepatitis C. Now they are spread through differently. Let's look one at a time. There are several types of hepatitis. Hepatitis A, hepatitis B and hepatitis C are examples of hepatitis caused by different viruses. Let's start from hepatitis A. The hepatitis A virus causes hepatitis A. Here we can see how it looks like. Hepatitis A is spread through contaminated food and water. There is no treatment to cure the disease. People usually recover by themselves over a short period of time. To prevent the disease, vaccinations are available. Vaccination for hepatitis normally is given for people who like to go abroad and especially to third world country. So one way is to prevent is by vaccination. Hepatitis B. The hepatitis B virus causes hepatitis B. Here you can see how hepatitis B looks like. Hepatitis B can spread through contact with infected blood by sharing razors, toothbrushes and other personal items. It can also spread through sexual contact. Hepatitis C virus causes hepatitis C. Here we can see how hepatitis C virus looks like. Hepatitis C can spread through contact with infected blood. Some people recover after a short while. People who develop into chronic hepatitis C need treatment. There is no vaccination to prevent hepatitis C. Here we have learned different types of hepatitis. Hepatitis A, B and C. Now as we learn from here, there is vaccination for hepatitis A and B, but there is no vaccination for C. Now A is contracted due to contaminated food and drinks. Now for B and C is contaminated through blood. Now let's move on to HIV. That stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. AIDS is caused by Human Immunodeficiency Viruses, HIV. The virus attacks and kills white blood cells. The virus is found in body fluids like blood, semen, mother's milk and secretions of the vagina. Let's look at the symptoms of HIV when the white blood cells decreases over time. As we can see here, these are the main symptoms of acute HIV infection. Since the immune system is weak, the patient can easily contract other diseases such as pneumonia, which can lead to death. So immune system is very important. That is the first defense that we have against any microorganisms or any infections in our body. Now, what happens when it weakens? Even HIV, a common cold, is something dangerous for a normal HIV patient. So we have seen all the 4 different types of pathogens and the diseases caused by these pathogens. Pathogens like bacteria, fungi, protozoa and viruses. Now let's look at different ways where it is spread, starting from contaminated water. Ways diseases spread: contaminated water, vector, contaminated food, physical contact, and air. Diseases can spread through contaminated water. This usually occurs due to poor sanitation. Sometimes sewage leaks into the water supply and contaminates drinking water. People who drink contaminated water can get diseases like cholera and hepatitis A. So due to contaminated water, there are 2 diseases that is very common: cholera and hepatitis A. This is due to contamination of water. Let's look at contaminated food. Contaminated food. Food can be contaminated when it has not been well prepared. Raw food and vegetables which have not been washed properly before cooking, sometimes washed with contaminated water, and prepared in dirty surroundings. Eating contaminated food can cause diseases like cholera and hepatitis A. Eating raw shellfishes can also cause diseases like hepatitis A. This is because shellfish may have from sewage contaminated water. So we have learned contaminated water and contaminated food. They have something similar in here. They have the same disease, that is cholera and hepatitis A. They cause these 2 diseases. But even though the source is different, but the disease is created by this contaminated food and water is the same. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is on vector. Vectors are animals and insects that carry pathogens that in turn cause diseases to us. Mosquito, Plasmodium protozoa, carried by the female Anopheles mosquito, causes malaria. Housefly. Fly contains pathogenic bacteria that causes cholera. So we have seen an example of a mosquito here whereby it carries Plasmodium protozoa, and on top of that, for housefly we have seen how it causes cholera. So 2 different types of vector. Now let's move on to the next, that is through air. Tuberculosis is spread through the air. A person can get it by breathing in contaminated air. So air is one other way of infection. Normally it happens because of an infected person coughing, and these water droplets can be carried in the air itself. As these water droplets goes into a respiratory system of another person, that's how the person gets infected. So normally we call this as airborne. Let's look at the physical contact. Physical contact. Physical contact includes skin contact and sexual contact. For example, a person can get fungal infections like tinea by touching an infected person. Cornea, syphilis, HIV, and hepatitis B are spread through sexual contact. So we have seen examples of sexual contact diseases. Now let's look at questions and see our understanding in this topic. Question 1. This disease is caused by a protozoa and spread by a vector. What disease is this? A. Malaria. B. Cholera. C. Hepatitis B. D. Dengue fever. Now, it is caused by protozoa and spread by vector. Now, for protozoa, as we know, there is only one. It's malaria, and it is actually the vector that is involved in here is a mosquito. So therefore, the answer is obvious, A. Question 2. Which of these statements about hepatitis B is incorrect? A. It is caused by a type of virus. B. It can cause liver damage. C. It can cause the skin to have ring-like and itchy rashes. D. A person can carry the pathogen that causes hepatitis B for life. Hepatitis B, that is what we are looking at here, and we have to find something that is incorrect. Now, question A, it causes by a type of virus. Actually, it's correct. B, it can cause liver damage. It's correct too. Now, C, it can cause the skin to have ring type and itchy rashes. It's actually the symptoms of ringworm. So therefore, C is not the answer. D, a person can carry the pathogen that causes hepatitis B for life. Yes, they can be a carrier for hepatitis B. So therefore, the answer is actually C. Let's look at question 3. How is AIDS spread? 1. Coughing and sneezing. 2. Food and drinks. 3. Sexual contact. 4. Sharing of needles among drug users. A. 1 and 2. B. 3 and 4. C. 1, 3 and 4. And D. 1, 2, 3 and 4. AIDS is spread through sexual contact and a blood transfusion. So therefore, the answer in here, 1 and 2, is wrong. So 3, that is on sexual contact, is correct, and 4, sharing of needle among drug users, are correct also. So therefore, answer for this question would be 3 and 4. B is the answer. Let's move on to question 4. Which of these statements are correct? 1. Cholera and tuberculosis are caused by bacteria. 2. Syphilis and tinea are caused by fungi. 3. Malaria is caused by protozoa. And 4. Dengue and AIDS are caused by viruses. A. 1 and 2. B. 3 and 4. C. 1, 3 and 4. And D. 1, 2, 3 and 4. It's a correct statement from here, so therefore, number 1, cholera and tuberculosis are caused by bacteria, is correct. Let's look at number 2. Syphilis and tinea are caused by fungi. Now, syphilis is not caused by fungi, it's actually caused by bacteria. So therefore, number 2 is actually wrong. Let's look at 3. Malaria is caused by protozoa. Yes, it's correct. It's actually Plasmodium protozoa. Number 4. Dengue and AIDS are caused by viruses, is correct. So therefore, the answer would be 1, 3 and 4. C will be the answer. Now, let's summarize what we have learned. In this topic, we have seen the different types of pathogens, starting from bacteria, fungi, protozoa and viruses. And on top of that, we have seen all the diseases caused by bacteria, fungi, and like protozoa, which causes malaria, and for viruses, which causes AIDS, hepatitis, dengue, and so on. So that's what we have learned in this lesson, and I hope you have learned a lot of diseases in this topic. Thank you for watching iTTV. I will see you in the next lesson. Goodbye, students.